mid-90s, sales were down across the board, including at Image, but they were still a major presence in the industry, but readers had no idea what was going on behind the scenes.
Image Comics was born of rivalries. Rivalries are great, they drive people.
I would say that the six of us were closer to being brothers. You're always in competition with your brother.
If we were guilty of anything back in the early days of Image, it was hubris. Marvel and DC weren't really our concern, because people were going to buy Marvel books and they were going to buy DC books. So who was going to be our competition? My partner is my competition.
It was like frat houses fighting each other over ideas, over people.
Well, who gets the new hot kid that now walks into the studio? And if I do have a hot kid that I nurture, and you then give him more money than I'm giving him, should we be doing that to each other?
Giving people that freedom, I think, was part of Image. It's like, that's what we wanted.
The autonomy that we had set up was also beginning to be the source of all of our tensions. In 1996, Jim Lee and myself were contacted by Marvel Comics to come back and bolster some of their classic characters who had fallen on hard sales times.
They said, look, these characters are suffering. We want your help in sort of restoring some shine to the characters. I thought it was a big win and a cool opportunity. These are characters I hadn't really worked on while I was at Marvel.
You know, that was when, as opposed to the early days of Image, people needed money.
Marvel came and basically cash whipped Jim Lee and Rob. And it's like, now it's just about the cash. Like, oh my gosh, now we're diminishing even more because now it's like I can be bought.
When the news of Heroes Reborn reached the other partners, they were very upset. It was the first time things were getting openly ugly, and you're like, oh, we're not being polite to each other anymore. These guys are pissed.
I sat next to Todd on a panel when all the questions for Jim and I that summer were about our deal with Marvel. He lost his cool. He yelled at the fans, "This is for Image. There'll be a panel later where you can talk to them about Marvel."
This was getting to the point where it wasn't fun at all. Under the Image Comics deal, I owned all the books that I created. So I began to publish them under another company I created called Maximum Press.
The other owners were not happy about that because they actually saw that as competition to Image.
Todd sent me a letter that said, if you do not bring these books back from Maximum Press, we are going to take legal action against you. And I responded with, I don't care. I'm not bringing them back.
Our pages are actually 10 by 15, which is about the size of Rob's ego.
There did get to be certain arguments that had taken place with Rob Liefeld. There ended up being enough points of friction that Mark Silvestri was like, look, if this guy's going to be here, I got to go.
Extreme Studios went after one of Mark's top guys, and Mark had it.
You know, at that point, it's like, what are we doing here? This is insanity. I just couldn't live in that environment anymore.
I got a letter pushed under my door by the publisher of Image Comics that Mark has resigned. Now, I'm not stupid. I knew that was ramping up hostilities. But I gotta tell you, I didn't care.
Todd called me, and we talked. And I said, I can't deal with the BS anymore.
And I go, well, what if you're not the one that goes?
We were gonna meet in a suite at the Marriott. I wanted to deal with espionage. I bought the room next to the suite. And Matt and I stayed in that suite. And literally we are laying on the floor, looking through the light in the door. But I hear everything. I guess Rob's not coming. They also kept waiting for me to come into the room. But I thought this would be an honest assessment, you know? And I hear Todd and Mark and Jim and Eric and Jim Lee discuss me. Valentino is reluctant. Eric Larson's pissed off at me. Todd's like, we gotta do what we gotta do. Jim Lee is quiet. And I was like, yeah, we're done.
Right before we were going to vote him out, Rob faxed in his resignation.
When the news broke that Rob was leaving Image Comics, it was like the Beatles breaking up. You really got a sense that they were all the best of friends, and, you know, this was kind of the first indication that that wasn't true. It was kind of heartbreaking.
I don't think any of those decisions were made lightly by any of us. And actually, he and Todd were super close as friends. And I'm sure that impacted their friendship for a bit, and it impacted my relationship with Rob. I didn't talk to him for years after that.
I'm not proud of that moment in our history. We had success, hard and fast. The money came. You know, it was just, it was overwhelming.
The sales slump, which threatens to engulf the comic world, could be the one enemy its superheroes cannot defeat. Since peaking in the early 1990s, over half of America's comic shops have gone out of business.
About 1995, the speculator boom crashed, as they do.
When the guys who were planning to cash in went into their local comic book store and tried to cash in, found out their store was going to give them 10 cents on the dollar, then the bottom fell out.
Every year the numbers were falling. Every month the numbers were falling. Every week sometimes the numbers were falling. And nobody could really stop it.
The business was seemingly kind of falling apart around us. And also, I was just burnt out. That kind of got me thinking about what would be like if I took Wildstorm and partnered with a bigger company.
Jim Lee took his company Wildstorm to DC Comics and sold it, and eventually became an executive there.
That was a shock. When Jim sold to DC, that was a shock.
Rob's leaving, I think, just leaves a bitter taste. But Jim Lee was a bigger punch.
Yeah, Jim was Jim. Wildstorm was a massive studio. They were our largest market share within Image. It was a big blow to us. We were worried for a minute, you know, would we survive? And I think a lot of us got kind of scared.
It's Breaking Bad's 10th anniversary.